I wanted to talk about symptoms, particularly symptoms of ankylosing spondylitis, because that's the condition that I have. But also, I want to invite anybody to make a comment on their symptoms as well. So, as soon as anybody joins us, we want to invite them to basically, if you're comfortable sharing anything that you may have in terms of, what's your condition, how it affects you, what kind of symptoms you have on a daily basis, what kind of symptoms you have within a day, perhaps, if it's, a certain symptom in the morning, then throughout the day, and then a different symptom in the evening, whether you have trouble eating, perhaps. Turn this around a bit, there we go. Or doing any kind of activity or anything like that, basically. So yeah, we're talking about symptoms and their effects on your daily life from having any kind of autoimmune condition. So we're looking at fibromyalgia, ankylosing spondylitis, rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's, IBD, ulcerative colitis, basically anything like that at all. I've probably not even got one or two of the phrases right there, but there's loads more as well that I haven't spoken about. So in terms of going live, I don't go live or I haven't gone live very often until recently, and then over the past couple of weeks I've done a couple of lives, and I want to start doing a few more of these because it's good to actually kind of like almost chat to you guys rather than just put a little kind of factoid kind of video together. I mean, my recent factoid video was about the Ankylosaurus, the dinosaur, and how we relate to them in terms of how the ankylosing side of things happens and the fusion of the bones. So that's a massive symptom, and that's an end of that's the final symptom, as it were, of ankylosing spondylitis. But there are loads more symptoms that you would have to go through before you get to that stage. But depending on what kind of autoimmune condition, what sort of symptoms you may have may affect you differently. So if you've got more of a physical condition versus a sort of internal, I want to say, sorry, not physical, but muscular or musculoskeletal versus a digestion issue, or an intestinal issue. So what I'm saying is kind of like say some inflammatory arthritis that affects your back, compared with something like Crohn's, which affects your stomach. They're going to affect you in different ways. With a musculoskeletal issue, that's going to stop you, moving in certain ways. Whereas something like Crohn's is going to stop you, so from your abdomen perspective, and it will still stop you moving, but it'll be in a different way. So I'm looking at, things like that. So in terms of how the ankylosing spondylitis has affected me in terms of symptoms, there's two main symptoms that I think everything stems from. And that is number one, pain, and number two, stiffness. So pain can stop you in your tracks doing anything, and then has certain effects after that. So if your body's fighting pain, your whole sort of level of energy is used up before you go to do anything else. So with, say, the spoon theory, for example, is a very good way of understanding how much energy you have throughout a day. So if you're given, say, 10 spoons in a day, one spoon of energy, each one represents a certain level of energy. So one spoon will be used for, getting up and showering. Another spoon will be, for getting ready in the morning, and just sort of outside of the, showering, you've got, you getting yourself ready, maybe your kids ready, all that sort of thing. So that's 2 spoons gone. Then the third spoon in the spoon theory would be, I don't know, you drop your kids at school. So before you've even started your day, 3 spoons are gone. And that's if you're having a decent day, I don't want to say a good day, because you might not be having a good day, but 3 are gone before you start what would be considered a normal day. I say a normal, whatever your normal is. So that means you've only got 7 left that you've got to pace yourself with throughout the rest of the day. Now, if you've got 7, at the other end, you've still got to pick the kids up. You've still got to do whatever you do during the day, whether it's, making dinner, making, sort of whatever you do around the house, hoovering and cleaning and whatnot around the house. You've got a job. All these things will just sap your energy. So from that perspective, you'll probably run out of spoons before the end of the day. And that's when your body turns around and says, actually, no, I'll stop you here. You have to reset, kind of like recharging a battery. And you'll get to, if you get to 0, then you depleted everything and that's it. You've got to sit down, lie down, sleep, whatever you have to do to recharge. You'll do that. And when you've, come to, as it were, it's not a full sleep. It's not a night sleep or anything like that. It's a, light sleep. So you haven't got a full number of 10 spoons back for the second part of the day. You'll probably only have another 3 or 4 to get you through to the end of the day. And then you get to the night, basically. So pain makes your, the symptom of pain makes your whole energy level and energy management very, very difficult indeed. So something in the day is always going to take up a lot of your energy. It's going to take up the bulk of your energy, whatever that may be, whether it's work or what have you. But your energy levels are going to be, sort of depleted very, very quickly within, that part of the day. So pain has a very, very big impact on your life from day to day. So the other one that I mentioned was stiffness. So with ankylosing spondylitis, you get a lot of stiffness in your joints, especially when you wake up. So if you've been still for a certain number of hours, like you are when you're asleep, you don't move as much as you do when you're, during the day. You'll kind of seize up. Your joints will start seizing up throughout the night. So first thing in the morning, you get up and your joints are like, a bit stiffer than they would be normally. And you have to do all your exercises to loosen them up, get your body ready for whatever you're going to be doing that day. So you're going to be spending energy on your exercises first thing, and that stiffness sometimes can last, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Sometimes it can last a couple of hours. Sometimes it just doesn't go away at all. And if you're in a flare up, there's things like the stiffness and pain, which will come together and kind of it's kind of like an attack basically, and that can last anything from sort of 10 minutes through to you know months sometimes. So one of the other symptoms that I wanted to talk about when it comes to stiffness and things like that, stiffness can, can also cause other problems. If you can't move, for example, you're probably not going to be you're going to be struggling to get up in the morning and get to where you want to be. Sorry, I'm struggling myself today. I've got a bit of there's a lot of kind of brain fog going on today, so I'm struggling with my words. So everything that I say is taking like 2 or 3 times as long. It's really weird. Anyway, one of the other things that is a big symptom is inflammation. So ankylosing spondylitis is an inflammatory arthritic condition. So inflammation can hit literally at any time whatsoever. And that's basically your body or your immune system within your body saying there's something wrong with something somewhere in your body, and I'm going to inflame it to kind of try and protect it. But it overdoes it, basically. It attacks healthy joints, basically. But one of the joints that it attacks is right here in the middle of your ribs. And there's a little joint there. And when it does attack and inflames your ribs, it's called costochondritis. And that symptom is it's wow in terms of pain when it hits. So what it does is inflame your whole, just because of that little bit inflammation there, it expands your whole rib cage, and not in a good way. And it hurts a lot. And there's various ways of getting through that in terms of physio and things like that, but it is a massive problem. Costochondritis can attack literally at any time when you're just kind of looking and like it gets you, and it's very, very painful. One of the other painful areas is your sacroiliac joint, so you can get inflammation in there, and that's where your hip thing joins to your pelvic area in amongst there, basically. Not your hip, sorry, your spine meets your pelvic area. And what it does, oh, hi Chloe, thanks for joining. And what it does is it can inflame that area. And if it inflames that area, not only is that hugely painful, but it can also push on the sacroiliac nerve and cause a that nerve, which goes down your leg, the full length of your leg, is a massive level of pain. So sometimes if you've got inflammation in your body, it can go to several places at once. It's a systemic issue. You don't know where it's going to attack next, and you could be hit with, say, inflammation in your sacroiliac joint and within your ribs as well at the same time, and that is when things get out of hand in terms of pain. Pain can stop you in your tracks doing all sorts of things. It can make you not think properly. It can make you just not be able to, do your normal daily tasks in any way properly. It can be horrific, but there are ways sort of around it. I'm not going to say you can fight pain and just go, no, I don't want you there, because that's not the case. Some of us go through a lot of pain and we have to deal with it. Sometimes it's easier than other times. So that is another symptom. But some of the other symptoms you can get will be like some of the smaller kind of peripheral joints that you've got around your body. So fingers, knuckles, thumbs, feet, ankles, knees, elbows, basically anywhere there's joint, inflammation can strike within that area and cause stiffness problems and problems in looking, turning, and whatnot. If you don't deal with it over a period of time, that can cause damage. And if it does cause damage, then it can lead to fusing, which is the ultimate kind of end of the line for ankylosing spondylitis. Once it's fused, that's it. It doesn't go any further than that. So there's like symptoms from those two areas that kind of then spread out into lots of different areas. But I'd say for me and my experiences, I would say the stiffness kind of has always been there. So you get, I'd say you get used to it. You kind of just live with it and it's there all the time and it's there. But the pain is the one that I really, really struggle with. So pain is always there's a base layer or base level of pain. So if you imagine a graph out of 10, and 10 being, the worst pain possible, 0 being no pain at all, you're having a normal day for a normal person without pain or any conditions whatsoever. I would say that on a really good day, pain is at a level of probably 3 for me. So that's on a good day. So on those days, I'll be able to go out. I'll be able to a degree, socialize, do what you need to do kind of thing. But if it can creep up between that level of pain level of 3 and probably 7 at any point, and it kind of goes like that. So some days when it gets to 7, I'll say, actually, I can't do anything. I'm not going to go out. I'm just going to kind of sit there and, just chill, because I need my body to actually rest. If it does go up to 7 and it keeps on being at that level of pain, and then it creeps above that, that's kind of, for me, that's kind of flare territory. And once I've hit that, it tends to be, 8s and 9s kind of thing across the board. Very rarely hit a 10. But when I have, the pain is usually the costochondritis. And the first time I had that, I honestly thought that I was a goner. I thought something was happening to me, because it's around there. You think heart, and I thought, am I, having some sort of heart attack? I can't be having a heart attack. What's going on, kind of thing. And I kind of rubbed it a fair bit, and I didn't know what to do. Went to the GP the next day, and he said, okay, yeah, you're not, a goner, you're not dying or anything like that. It's absolutely fine. It's called costochondritis, and we'll put you forward to a physio, and this is how you get rid of it, basically. So I was put forward to a physio, and they showed me how to get rid of it. If you're interested in how to get rid of, how to kind of help costochondritis subside, what you do is, when you've got it, I know it hurts, and it hurts even more to do this, but you take a deep breath in like that, fill your fill your lungs with air, keep it there, hold it there 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, then let out another little breath. Oh, sorry, no, you take a deep breath on top of that breath, hold that for another 3 seconds, and then let it out slowly. And do that a couple of times. Obviously, you don't want to be fainting or anything like that, so be careful with that. And just to let you know, disclaimer, I'm not a physio or anything like that, but that's how a physio showed me how to do that. So, yeah, the two areas for pain were costochondritis and, sorry, that's my cat meowing. He's old now, so he's always complaining. And my sacroiliac joint. Those are the two kind of high level pain sort of flare areas. And you could kind of feel it coming on. You're kind of hovering around this sort of pain 7 mark, and you think, hang on a minute, that's pushing it, I'm going to have to rest. And either the rest brings it down ever so slightly, or it just doesn't go. And then you think, right, here we go. You get your kind of, I call it a flare pack. I think there's other people, there's loads of people on TikTok that actually, have it. And that's where I found that it was a good idea to have a flare pack. And basically that is stuff that you would always need to get to very quickly if you're having a flare up. So any kind of vital medication that helps you with your flare up. So if you've got a pain issue and there's a certain type of painkiller that you need to get to, you have that in your flare pack. And it can be anything from a little kind of bag and beside the bed or whatever to a holder or whatever beside the bed. It can be like just pajamas. It can be a certain pair of trousers that aren't tight on you or something like that. It can be a pair of sort of the eye guard things because you're sensitive to light, or the earphones because you're sensitive to noise, or both, or whatever, and put those in a pack, bag, whatever. Then whenever you have a flare up, bang, it's there, ready. I need to take that. I need to put those eyes on. I need to get changed into my pajamas or whatever. And you're ready to go, basically, to kind of ride out the flare. Simple as that. I say simple, it's not simple. It is what it is. So if there's any of you that have had flare-ups, what are your go-to kind of things? Like, do you have medication at the ready? Do you have anything like that ready to go? Be interesting to see what other people have. But in terms of other side effects, I mentioned it ever so slightly earlier, brain fog. So one of the issues with brain fog is that sometimes you don't know you're kind of having it unless it's there, and then suddenly someone says something going, "You okay?" You're like, "Yeah, why?" "Oh, because you answered cheese to that question." You're like, "What?" It's kind of like that. Hi, Anita, thanks for joining. And brain fog can be anything from, just forgetfulness. You walk into a room and you can't remember why you walked into that room. It's quite jokey, that side of things. I think I kind of mock myself all the time, walking into the room. Why did I come in here? To the next level, which can be, okay, I have forgotten what I'm saying mid-sentence, for example. Happens to me all the time. I don't know whether it has happened to anybody else. Sorry, there's the dog chasing a cat. So there's that level, and then there's kind of like the top level of brain fog, which is where you literally, you're stuttering to kind of, you can't get your words out because your brain and your mouth don't, like, the link between the two isn't quite like it's not firing as it should be. Okay, that's an interesting question. Do I smoke cannabis? No, I don't. Uh, and No, never done anything like that. There were these little CBD gummies, which is it CBD? I can't remember. And Yeah, I had some of those a while back, and yeah, they're okay. Anita, is it true that you can't really touch anything? No. I think there's certain things um, uh, that when you've got problems with sort of your nerve endings and stuff like that, I know there's certain autoimmune conditions. Is it CRPS? I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think CRPS is where the nerves are so delicate that you can't have anything touching them or touch them. So it can be like your foot, for example, in which case you can't put a sock or a shoe on there, hand or what have you. But in terms of what I've got, no, fine, don't touch anything. Yeah. Then start blazing, right? No, it's not my sort of thing. But thanks anyway. But yeah, CBD. Yeah, so I had the little gummy things like a while back, and I just didn't feel that they kind of really did anything for me. I don't know whether they do anything for anybody else. I know the idea of sort of a natural product, basically, which has been used for centuries, isn't it? Really, should work quite well, but yeah, it just doesn't work for me. So everybody's different, I guess. Yeah, that's interesting to kind of look at the different ways of what's that? CBD relaxes muscles. THC makes you high. Okay, yeah. So the CBD was the one that I had. Yeah, not THC. No, I'm not sure that would have been it's up my street at all. But yeah, CBD. The thing is with ankylosing spondylitis, it can affect muscles from if you've got a problem with your joint and it's inflamed kind of thing, all the muscles around that can then react to that. But essentially, it's not the muscles themselves that are the problem. You shouldn't have any problem, from a muscular perspective. So maybe that's why it didn't work or anything. But the gummies, tasted all right. They were fine. It's interesting to think of different kinds of ways that people hi Roxy, react to different kind of treatments. So medication for me, I'm on biologics, so I take an injection every couple of weeks for those. They are a game changer, and I know there's different kind of hi Carl. There's different kind of countries that deal with biologics differently. So in the UK, they're not freely available, but if you're diagnosed, they're more likely to prescribe a biologic than, say, a country that is insurance based. So like the United States, where their health services is insurance based, and of course the more cost of a medical treatment like a biologic, which is it's over about £1,000 a month or so, an insurance company are going to say, actually, we don't want to be really paying that, so they'll make you jump through further hoops effectively to try and get that prescribed. Okay, what would you want us as doctors to be more aware about regarding AS? So welcome. I don't know what your name is there, but so as um, that's a really interesting question, actually. So from a GP perspective, I think there's different things that aren't really noticed unless you put them all together. So if someone young is complaining of growing pains, for example, growing pains can be quite a common thing. But if there's a history of, um, an autoimmune condition that's genetic, if there's a history of that in their family, then I think maybe, um, sort of the doctor looking at that as well, from that perspective. So, yeah, child comes in, hi, I've got growing pains. I'm 13 years old. What are these growing pains? Because it really hurts. Doctor then goes, okay, let's have a look at your mum and dad's genetic sort of stuff. Bang. Okay, your dad's got a genetic code or genetic marker of HLA-B27, which is the thing that's mostly associated with Crohn's and ankylosing spondylitis. And once you see that, they go, okay, let's test for that. Now, okay, we're starting to build a picture of what these growing pains could be. So it's kind of like that rather than just going, you've got growing pains. Will, instead of treating the thing that's right in front of you, kind of look holistically at the, not just the person, but the person's genetic kind of background. I guess that's what I would put forward. But yeah, it's a really, really good question. Thank you for asking. So Carl, thanks for sub and the like. Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. I had blood tests and was told I had a gene marker for AS, but they didn't say if I actually have it. I have multiple herniated discs and widespread pain and stiffness. Okay, so the genetic marker is HLA-B27, so I presume that's what you've that you've got. So all I can say is chase them up. If they haven't told you that you have got it, the chances are that you probably haven't. I would hope anyway. There is every chance that you won't get it, just as much as there's every chance that you will get it. So having the marker doesn't mean that you will definitely end up having ankylosing spondylitis. But widespread pain can also mean something else, like fibro or fibromyalgia. So it's not necessarily that, but the three things and the herniated discs that you're saying kind of build a picture to say that it's I'm not a doctor, but I would kind of it does look likely. I'll chase it up if I were you. Right. Do you think it's strange how we can heal injuries like wounds over time? What compared with autoimmune conditions? Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? How like injuries, like just a cut to the arm or broken arm, broken bones and stuff like that heal perfectly. But our own immune system can be, it's a weird thing. Immunity is just weird. How do they test for AS? Because I've just been left to rot by the NHS. That's not good. That's not nice. Okay, so the tests are the initial one would be blood tests to find your, like, if you've got any inflammatory markers. So something called ANA, and there's another one. I can't remember what the other one is. And it's basically to see if there's an elevated level of inflammation in your body. Simple as that. That's number one, and that's cheap as chips. Your GP can do that. The next level will be things like MRI to see if there's anything going on with your actual, things like your spine and your neck and stuff like that. And once that has kind of happened, what else? Just trying to think. They might do some, smaller tests like what's it, the ultrasound kind of thing, to see if there's any issues with your stomach and stuff like that, and maybe a CT scan around your neck and things. But it's those kind of tests that they do. And then basically it will tell them, the MRI is the one that tells them really that, what's going on with your spine. And they can see if there's, inflammation, damage, health, or whatever, basically. And then they just take their educated opinion based on all the facts. If they all line up, then boom, there it is. But oh yes, I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Okay, that's it's not very nice at all. There's another one. My mum has AS, but doesn't have the marker. The marker is just excluded. Absolutely, yeah. I think it's only 20% of people that have the marker have AS. So there is a link, but it's kind of vague. Right, and it's my 10-year-old son asking those questions. Oh, bless him. Yeah, that's not good. It's not good at that sort of age, to be asking about those sorts of things. Not to be asking, I guess, but to be concerned about your health. 10 years old, you should be, living your best life. My missus has AS off the injection and started new tablets. She had measurements taken yesterday and was so much better than this time last year. What's your name, mate? My name's Ian. That's interesting. She came off the injection and started new tablets. That's really, really interesting that it's worked like that. Different things for different people work really, really well. It's funny, isn't it, how I know there's some people that completely come off medication and go the dietary route, and the diet becomes an absolute 100% kind of reliance, I guess. And the diet works wonders. I don't know if that will work over a long period of time. I don't know whether medication will work over a long period of time. I've had to change my medication just once because the last one didn't work. So yeah, we're all built differently, internally and externally. So yeah, it works different for everybody. There we go. Night off music. My grandfather carried the marker but didn't actually have AS. So hereditary research is key. Effectively, it's genetic. Absolutely. Yeah, it's really important to find out these things. I was the first one in my family to have AS. I didn't know anybody that's had it before me. So I have, I think I know where it came from. So I've asked, when I was diagnosed with it, I asked my dad, I said, look, has anybody ever had this? And he said, never heard of it. Okay, let's look back over the family tree and think back, as to who had what. Problem is, all that generation above my dad, they're long gone, so there's no one who can ask. And so it's difficult to say where it actually came from. But in saying that, my great grandmother walked with a walking stick, um, and was quite hunched over. Then my grandmother, this is all on my father's side, my grandmother was ever so slightly hunched over, um, and she would say like things like about all my leg, all my arm, all my shoulder. But she was she had the strength of 10 people. She was a really, really strong woman. Not physically at all, but just mentally, she was like right on it. And so she never really complained about it. So, but I think she had it as well, or at least a level of it. But yeah, no one obviously ever medicated for it. Helps prevent fusions. Degeneration is going to happen regardless. That's true. So the more flexibility you have, but you'll be in long term. At least do the inevitable. Yeah, you know what? Yeah. So fusion is the sort of ultimate end kind of the end point for AS. So once fusion happens between two joints where they've effectively kind of literally fused together. So it's the term bamboo spine for anybody watching that doesn't know what that actually means. It's where two of your vertebrae can basically the cushion between your vertebrae just disintegrates, and it's just not there anymore, and you got the bone, you got more bone growth, and effectively, yeah, it links into one another. So instead of having your spine like with nice little gaps in the middle, it goes like that into a bamboo spine. Nasty stuff. And it is a progressive disease, yes. And there are drugs to help slow it down, like biologics, and movement is absolutely key. My rheumatologist, the first thing he told me after telling me about my diagnosis was motion is lotion. And I was like, okay, fair enough. He said, never, ever stop moving. I was like, okay, fair enough. Yeah, so from there, I, kind of, sort of pushed myself in terms of movement. I still move like a slug, but it's kind of like a bendy slug now. But there we go. If a cannibal hit nothing vital in a human's body. If a cannibal hit nothing vital in a human's body, would they survive? Is this your son's question again? It depends where it hit, I guess. Leg? Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It's something I'd not like to ever try. But there we go. Yeah, managing the sort of from a mental perspective, managing the pain is really, really important as well. On my last video, I kind of skimmed around mental health, and I think I should do a proper live version of mental health and the impact of it, from having an autoimmune condition, because it's massive. Constant pain can be, it can be a huge toll on your mental health, and you do have to have a certain amount of sort of natural resilience, I guess. And I guess it's just human nature to want to survive and thrive, I guess, But so, most of us can kind of, with the help of, other people perhaps, or professional help, or what have you. Most, I say most people, I don't know if there's a percentage of people that, get through things naturally or with help. But I know there's something like, it's like 60% of people with an autoimmune condition also have mental health issues. So it's huge, and it is so relevant. Carl, two of a vertebrae fusing together. Ouch. Do you know what? Here's a question about fusing, because I don't know this. Once things are fused, does it hurt anymore? There's a question. Yeah, I don't know. I would imagine the actual process of fusing really does hurt. I try to keep moving, but my back muscles will cramp and spasm so easily. If I move around a lot, I'll be in a lot of bed. Okay. Absolutely. I hear you. I know exactly what you mean. It's like a double-edged sword, isn't it? If you do it, it's going to hurt. If you don't do it, it's going to hurt. The way that I look at it is that if I do my stretches and exercises, it will hurt less than if I didn't do them. So it's the lesser of two evils, I guess. So the exercises that I do, I spread throughout the day now. So what I used to do is, it used to be like half an hour or so, it's sort of mid-morning about then, 10 o'clock or so. And that would kind of sort me out for that period of time. Then it spread to 2 lots of 20 minutes, sort of morning and evening. Then it was 2 lots of half an hour. And then it got out of hand, and it was a crazy lot of stretches to do. And it became tedious and became boring as well. That's the other thing. It can be really boring just doing your stretches and that sort of thing. So what I then changed up was, I get out of bed. As I'm doing things, I'm stretching, I'm moving, I don't do exercise like, football or trampolining or anything like that. No impact sports are, absolutely gone. But I will do things like, sort of stretches and kind of yoga poses. They're kind of those sorts of things to keep my body as supple as it can be. And what I do is, do it throughout the day. So I get up out of bed, and as I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, I'll be doing stretches then, it will be about a minute, if that. But it's just those initial stretches. You can imagine when a cat or a dog wakes up, the first thing they do is their stretches. So I do those. I'll brush my teeth. While I'm brushing my teeth, I've got a timer on my toothbrush. It does 2.5 minutes. I'll put in 2.5 minutes of, stretching the sort of legs and hips and, bum and that sort of thing. So there's another 2.5 minutes. And then while the kids are getting ready, I'll be doing more stuff then, kind of thing, while I'm chatting to them in the morning and seeing what they got for the day and, what have you. So it then becomes you're distracted from actually doing it, and it becomes like just a second nature. You're just doing it out of routine, and you're not thinking about it. I think the more you think about it, the worse it can be, and the more you condense it, the worse it can be, because you then stretching your muscles, and then they've got time to tighten up again. So if you do more, little but more often. So little bite-sized pieces. That's what I do, and that's what works for me. Try it out. See, nothing to lose. See how you get on with that. Right, half of it is because the inflammation, constant stress causes the bone growth. Stress is an absolute beast. Okay, so this video started off about symptoms and stuff like that, and it's still well within that kind of bubble. But stress is a massive trigger of the symptoms. So stress, if you're working and you've got a stressful job, sorry, I just get a little bit more comfortable. If you're working, you've got a stressful job, hats off to you for being able to kind of cope with that on a daily basis. I used to have a stressful job, and it caused a lot of problems, put it that way. And so much so that I can't work now, can't physically work. But it is what it is. I've got other issues as well, but it's not just the AS. So stress is an absolute beast. So I know it's kind of a buzzword at the moment, and I don't particularly like it, but mindfulness, you've got to keep mindful of all these sorts of things and make sure your resilience from a mental perspective is where it should be and all this sort of thing. And, you can meditate and all this sort of thing. I think, yes, to a degree, but the stress just shouldn't be there in the first place, I feel. There's no need for stress. So if you've got someone, a manager or whatever coming down on you, and, I don't understand, why they would, do that. Some people like to cause stress for others. I don't understand that at all. But there we go. So I'm waiting to see physio again. Good. Physio's great. I know, physio, I've had loads of it, and it's nice because it's no impact, nice little stretches and stuff like that. And then, you might get someone, if you do it in a class, for example, you might get someone coming around and going, here you go, just move that foot behind your ear. Okay. But they will help you, so that's always useful. Yeah. So I do think that physio is absolutely fantastic. I guess maybe choose a position you want to be in. That's what I told them. Is chickenpox kind of like a load of mosquito bites? Is this your son again? Yeah, it is. Right. Okay. Choose it before you fuse it. Love it. Choose it before you fuse it. Right. Opioids help, sure, but the moment you use them, you can be dependent. Well, 3 weeks, but coming off them, your body freaks out and amplifies. So mental pain management helps. Absolutely. So opioids are a touchy subject. Some people, won't touch them. Some people have become quite reliant and dependent on them. I've been taking a low dose of codeine, but constantly. I take it twice a day because of the pain level. And I've been on that for 6 years. So coming off that, whenever I come off that, that's going to be a bit of a tough one. But I know that. But it's low dose and constant, so I can wean myself off it. I weaned myself off other medication before. It's never been an issue. I know what to expect. Yeah. So you're kind of like Zach D Films. Is that lad who has got AS? One of the Try guys. Is that him? I don't know. If it is, yeah, he's in a bad way. Well, he was in a bad way. He kind of got through it and then went back to having been a bad way. And then I've not kept up to date with what he's dealing with at the moment. But yeah, he's got AS as well. It's hard with mental health. Pain makes you feel low, and low mood doesn't help with pain. Vicious cycle. Absolutely. Yeah, you just go around in circles, chasing your own tail. yeah, you've got to find what's good for you in terms of your mental health, where you need to kind of, I guess, explore different avenues of what can help. You know, if it's just kind of sitting there with a cat or a dog or a budgie or a tortoise or whatever, then so be it. You know, or if it's sitting out in the garden, you know, whatever, even if it's raining, it might be sitting out in the garden in the pouring rain, which is it's quite a lot this time of year here. So, you know, whatever it is, find it's good to find your thing, whatever your thing is. Like I used to play guitar. I used to play guitar a lot. And I don't play it, you know, as much at all now. I can still play, but it's very much like a condensed version of what I used to play. And it's a very much an easier version of what I can play, but I can still, you know, I can still hold a tune. And that is perfect for my mental health. And one of my first questions of my rheumatologist was, will I ever have to give up the guitar? And he said, physically, one day it will probably have to happen. But until that day comes, exercise your hands constantly because it will be great for your mental health. And he wasn't wrong at all. So I've got these little finger exerciser things, which, you know, keep the muscles and the movement, I guess, of the my fingers well. So, yeah, find your thing and do as much as you can. Swimming is great, absolutely. If you can find somewhere that does hydrotherapy, even better. So hydrotherapy is basically swimming in a nice hot pool, not like normal, slightly heated. This is hot pool. It's great, love it. Yes, so the pain signals from your brain, yeah. So it's not a natural way of pain management at all. I know that, yeah, it's a bit different from normal. Right, even if your spine was fully fused, you still get aches because your muscles wouldn't be able to move, so they would atrophy and get cramps. Perfect. Okay, there's the perfect answer. So I asked a question just a little while ago about, you know, if you were to fuse, would it still hurt? And there's an answer here from Night Elf Music. Thank you very much for popping that in there. And basically, yeah, because your spine won't move at all, the muscles surrounding it, they're going to be like going, come on, then, I want to be doing this. I want to be doing that. I want to be moving like this. They've got an expectation to have a certain way they move. And if they don't, they're going to be screaming. You're going to be screaming not for fun either. Are you a surgeon because you know a lot about different types of pain and injuries? No, I'm just a dude. No, I know nothing about surgery whatsoever. I've never broken a bone, never cut, like, had any major cuts or anything like that. One day I just had ankylosing spondylitis. So I've dedicated the last 8 or 9 years since I got diagnosed, 8 years, to learning as much as I possibly can about it and other similar kind of things, so that I can talk to people, basically. And that is kind of my job now. I've taken it upon myself, just like voluntarily, like, help anybody that can, you know, that wants to have a chat, basically. As simple as that. If someone's got AS or a similar thing and they want to chat, I'm there. I will always, you know, just help where I can. Most of us growing up with family members we're living with, you just have to be our own docs because the NHS gaslights us. There you go. Unfortunately, there is a lot of gaslighting going on, and um, it's I don't know whether it's a time thing from a GP perspective or a financial thing, again, from a GP perspective or a surgery perspective, or the NHS just hasn't got enough money. It's as simple as that. You know, it's got to treat this many people, but with this much money, yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, it is what it is. I worry for mobility in the future and what all the medication is doing long term. Yeah, yeah. Um, it's sensible. I know you shouldn't have to kind of worry about that sort of thing, but it is sensible to have that in the back of your mind. So movement wise, I have a kind of vision of where I'm going to end up at the rate that my body is. You can kind of graph it. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, there's that in the back of my mind. I'm trying to do as much as I can in the meantime. So it's one of those things. Live your life to the fullest as much as you can, as much as your body will let you while you can. There might be a time when you might not be able to get onto a plane to go to your ideal place for your dream once in a lifetime place, for example. So yeah, it's a sensible worry, but I really feel for the fact that you're taking on that worry, as a partner. Basically, it's yeah, it's tough. Yeah, that's a good point about support. So if you have a good support system in place, there's everything that you do will feel that little bit easier. Like a problem shared is a problem halved, and that makes total sense. If there's someone there looking out for you, that can be just helping to ease some of the pressures here and there, just little bits here and there. It makes a world of a difference. So yeah, totally agree with that. Just upset, and it's not just distraction, but the hormones released make a massive difference. Dopamine, literally a painkiller. Cortisol, yeah, it makes more pain. Yeah, so cortisol is the stuff that is released in your fight or flight mode, isn't it? Yeah, that's not good stuff either. So yeah, it's not ideal. I do one more question now. So is kidney stones vital? Kidney stones are nasty. You don't want them. They hurt. Never had them, but they hurt apparently. So yeah, it's not a good feeling apparently. From pain from last few days. Okay, just came off them after a few weeks after section and double scaling. More surgery, wasn't on them for the op. Refused them after surgery, had a rough car ride home. So used what they gave me, stuck feeling pain more without. I felt like I needed them, I threw them out. But extra more. Extra use. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That cat. Which one did you see? We've got two. We've got three cats, but two are down here at the moment. The one meowing is a Bengal. He's around somewhere. And then there's another one. He's a big fluffy thing. He's a British long hair straight. He's called. Both stupid things. There he is. It's like on cue. And again. Right. Glad I came across your channel. Thank you very much. It's very lonely not having people around who understand this stuff. Totally understand. One of the things that one of the reasons that I started this channel was to show that people that we're not alone. We're not like we're just sort of asking questions into oblivion, essentially, that there are people out here in the same situation as us, and we can talk to each other quite, I'm quite open about everything. There's nothing really that I don't answer on here about AS. So I'm kind of, fine with anything. I know as well, when I first came on here and found other people that had AS, I was like, actually, this is really good validation for me. It's like, I felt like that. Oh, so do they? What? Really? I thought it was just me. And then you get a tick in the box and you think to yourself, I'm not going crazy, and, oh, is this associated with AS or is that associated with AS? You come on and bang, 20 other people have got it. It's fantastic. It's not fantastic having the situation and the symptoms, but it's fantastic that you get the validation from other people that do say that it's the same as them. I'm gonna have to tell the cat to be quiet now. Rory. Okay, good lad. His name's Rory because he always used to roar when he was little. There we go. Right, she's struggling so much at work. I told her to give up 10 years ago, and now I support her financially and happy to do so. Very seriously affected by stress. Do you know what work is? Do you know what? It's mad. Years ago, when I first started working, you might find this, I don't know, a bit of a shock, but I first started working at the beginning of the 90s. So back then, I found that there was just less pressure on work, and you could go into your job, do your job, and that was it. And there was kind of no stress at all. Could have been that I was younger, and I didn't care. But later in life, once I hit my 40s, I was just like, people were like, hang on a minute, this guy should be, a go-to person for knowledge, and, why doesn't he, know the answer, or, that sort of thing. There was just a lot more stress and pressure, I found. And it was probably where I was working as well, which was a lot more corporate. But over time, I just saw more stress and pressure. And I guess as you go through your career, there's this thing about your career that it's like, okay, you got to better yourself next year. You got to better yourself again. Okay, this year was not as good as last year. Can you do better again next year? It's like you're constantly trying to beat yourself. And that's an unnecessary stress. Why can't you just go to work and just do your job and then come home? That's a very different, kind of way of working compared to, I guess, how you're expected. The expectation of working at the moment is very different. Yeah, people can't switch off. Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. You get home, got a work mobile, bang, rings. I've had jobs before where, I've had phone calls at 10:30 at night and working till 2:30 in the morning and stuff like that. That's ridiculous. I look back and think, what the hell was I doing? But work aside, now that I was like medically retired in 2018, So I didn't have a choice. It wasn't up to me, although I was kind of like, okay, this is the proposal. And I was like, do I get a choice? Because, yeah, I guess, yeah, was my kind of answer to it. And it kind of forced my hand, as it were. And looking back, it was probably the best thing that happened to me because it just happened just after my diagnosis. I had some time off work. I struggled to work, couldn't even do my job anyway. And then it came and I was just like, right, okay, I've got to spend my time. Basically, I'm a full-time carer of myself. I spend all my time exercising, doing things like this, which absolutely helps my, it helps me from, I guess, a mental health perspective, talking to you guys, because it kind of gets a lot of stuff off my chest, so, it's sharing stuff is, it's almost like, you guys are my therapy. It's like your psychologists. I'm not going to pay you a psychologist rate, obviously, but there we go. That's kind of how it feels for me to talk to, like, a live situation. It's odd. It's really odd, but yeah, it works for me. So that's good. So that's what I fill my time with. Exercising, this sort of thing. Just making sure I'm 100%. Napping. I love napping, and I can't stop it actually. So that's one massive side effect of having chronic pain, I guess, but it is what it is. Right, still keep busy making stuff, but only leisure now, stress free. Perfect. Keep that stress free life. That's where you want to be. I had to be let go from my job in 21, and I was so upset. Loved my job, and I really miss it. I was a support worker, and now I have to just support myself. It's awful. There's a situation where anybody, when like the I guess the rug's pulled out from under you, in any sense of the word, with your life, whether it's work, whether it's through a diagnosis, whether it's through a relationship, whatever it is, it can be life changing. And the feeling of that loss can really trigger even more stress, which then leads to even more symptoms. So it's tough. It really is. And then, yeah, you go on and end up being a support worker for yourself. It's funny how things turn around and end up like that. I think anybody that's got AS and they're struggling with AS, I know a lot of people that have it and they caught it in really early stages, and they can lead, for all intents and purposes, a very active life. Fantastic for them, and they carry on working. That's absolutely great. For those that have struggled with it and got diagnosed a little bit later and have, say, the damage and the fusing and the big symptoms ongoing constantly, chronically, I would say you probably spend more time looking after yourself and self-care than you spend on anything else whatsoever. And that's what makes life difficult, because you don't really have any time to do anything else. It is tough. Alcohol is terrible for inflammation, like so many things. You're not wrong. I gave up. I can remember my last drink in 2018. I was it 2017? I can't remember. It was at the end of one of the years. It was in the December, and I went out for a little kind of like a Christmas kind of drink with a few friends and that. And I had 2 pints. That was it, and I felt so rough. Um, like almost instantly, I was just like, "That's not good." Came home, took about a week to get over it, and that was the last time I touched it. I don't miss it at all. And I went through. I mean, I used to drink a hell of a lot back in the day. Back in the day, during the mid-90s when we had that, just that time here in England in the 90s, the mid-90s were crazy for binge drinking, going out every night of the week. Something was open every night of the week. You could always go somewhere. Somewhere was open till 2 o'clock in the morning, and we would get absolutely, hammered, and then go to work the next day. What were we thinking? Brilliant, but couldn't even think about that now. But yeah, it is. Alcohol's bad. Stay away from it. Really independent. Lost my confidence as you talk on having to rely on others for help. It's very hard for me. Stubbornness keeps me alive, though. Do you know what? It is what it is. If you can get through, if you can put up with having AS on a daily basis, you can put up with anything. It's the worst thing there's probably a few worse things, but it's one of the worst things in the world to have chronic pain, things that go wrong with your body every day, but it's something different every day, or potentially different, from your eyes to your feet to your whatever. I think the only thing that hasn't been affected by AS is my earlobes, because the inside of my ears have even had havoc caused on them. So it's crazy. It's a crazy condition to have. But if you can get through that every day, you're a legend. You can do anything. Simple as that. Your stubbornness, you see, it's stubbornness can be very a difficult thing to stop being stubborn, because you're just naturally like that. But sometimes, there are levels of, sort of a symptom where you kind of have to give that up and go, right, okay. Yeah. That kind of stubborn. Sorry. Yeah. Don't give up. Rah. That's more like it. Yeah. I thought you meant stubbornness as in won't ask for help. But no, wicked. Don't drink anymore and try to avoid sugar as much as possible. See, sugar's my kryptonite. Not kryptonite. I don't know how you'd explain it. I love sugar. I love sweet stuff. I've always had a sweet tooth. So I'll have a cup of tea in the morning and I'll have 2 sugars in there. But that's it. So I've cut down, incredibly compared to before. I used to have, of a daily basis, you'd get a meal deal or something for your lunch, and you'd get a little chocolate bar kind of thing. And I'd have one of those a day. That was my chocolate for the day. Great, no problem. But then they seem to have got smaller, but there's also bigger bars now, like for sharing. But they're the ones that kind of like satisfy a little bit more. So I ended up getting the bigger bars and eating all of that. I don't know whether am I on my own there. Anyway, literally feel poisoned from drinking. Do you know what? I wouldn't know at all. I haven't even looked at it. The smell makes me go, why would I ever drink that? It's just weird. But Thanks. I'm glad I made sense, because sometimes in my head I'm not sure whether I'm making sense. So that's cool. But yeah, I've been on here for literally the whole afternoon. So I am gonna go and probably have a nap and then collect the kids from school. So that's the rest of my day. So I hope, yeah, you've all found this kind of interesting and stuff like that, and what have you. And we've all had a good chat and whatnot. So yeah, you take care as well, and I will see you at the next live one. Thank you very much. All right, see you later. Cheers.